Hi, I'm Laura and I'm here at Cats Protection in Hazelmere, and today I'm here with Cookie, and today I've got a story for you, and today's story is Fluff the Farting Fish by Michael Rosen. And I don't know if you've ever wondered whether fish can fart, but I've got this book, What a Fish Knows. It's by Jonathan Balcombe, and he talks about how fish communicate, how they think. And in this book, he says that one research paper describes the first example of what might loosely be termed flatulent communication. Both Pacific and Atlantic herrings break wind by releasing gas bubbles from the anal duct region, producing distinctive bursts of pulses, or what the research team playfully named fast repetitive ticks, which you can abbreviate to FRTs. And I think you could probably pronounce this farts. A bout of farts can last up to 7 seconds. The gas probably originates in the gut or the swim bladder. It isn't clear how these sounds function in herring society, but since per capita rates of sound production are higher in denser schools of herrings, a social function is suspected. So far there's no evidence that herrings ever beg your pardon. So, it is true that fish do fart, or certain fish at least can. So now that we've established that the premise of the story is scientifically sound, let's find out what happened to Fluff the farting fish. Elvie wanted a puppy. She said to her mum, "I want a puppy." Mum said, "Yes." "What, really? A puppy?" And she said yes. How brilliant is that? The next day, Mum went out to get the puppy, and she came back with the puppy. "What, really? A puppy?" "Well, actually, no. She came back with a fish." "A fish? But Mum," said Elvie, "I don't want a fish. I want a puppy." "Never mind," said Mum, "you'll soon get used to it." So Elvie put the fish in her room. She called it Fluff, just in case it started getting fluffy and turned into a puppy. And then she started to get Fluff to do puppy things. She dropped little sticks into Fluff's tanks and shouted, "Fetch!" Sometimes Fluff would go and get the stick, especially if the stick was made of fish food. Elvie waved her fingers around in the air above the water and shouted, "Jump!" And sometimes Fluff would leap up and try to grab her fingers, especially if there were bits of fish food on her fingers. She frowned, wagged her finger and shouted, "Sit!" Fluff didn't ever sit. Fluff wasn't good at sitting at all. Then Elvie had a brilliant idea. She saw someone on the TV who had a dog that barked at numbers, and it barked the right number of times. So Elvie held up numbers at the side of Fluff's tank and shouted, "Bark!" She didn't mind ever so much if Fluff didn't actually go woof, but she did rather hope that maybe Fluff would blow a bubble. But no, nothing. But Elvie didn't give up. Oh no, every day she stood by the tank and shouted, "Bark!" but not even a bubble. Until one day, something amazing happened. Instead of a bubble coming out of Fluff's mouth, a bubble came out of Fluff's bum. Yes, Fluff farted and a little bubble floated up to the surface of the water. "What, really?" "Oh yes." Elvie tried again. "Bark!" And yes, what do you know? Fluff blew another bubble. Elvie shouted, "Bark, bark!" And yes, Fluff farted twice. Elvie jumped up and down in excitement, and she rewarded Fluff with her favourite fish food. Then Elvie tried something else. She held up the number 3. "Look, Fluff," she shouted. 3. And yes, the incredible thing happened. Fluff farted 3 times. 3 little bubbles floated up to the surface. What, really? Oh yes. So now, every day was another exciting day with Fluff. Every day Elvie taught Fluff another trick with bubbles. Fluff was farting twice, 3 times, 4 times. Do you know something? Fluff even started to do sums. 2 plus 2, shouted Elvie, and sure enough, Fluff answered with 4 bubbles. Incredible, amazing, wonderful. Then Elvie had another thought. What if Fluff could make the bubbles sound different? Low ones and high ones, just like when she sang in school. So Elvie started singing training. Elvie would sing a note and say, "Fluff, go!" And it wasn't long before Elvie could hear that Fluff's bubbles were the notes that Elvie sang. She sang low and Fluff made a bubble sound low. She sang high and Fluff made a bubble sound high. You know what that meant, don't you? It wasn't long before Fluff could fart whole tunes, whole songs. The first song Evie taught her was Bar Bar Black Sheep. Then she taught Fluff Yellow Submarine. Then she taught Fluff Sun Has Got His Hat On. What, really? Oh yes. One day, Elvie was watching TV and she saw that they were looking for people to come along for a talent show. I know, thought Elvie, I could take Fluff along and get her to sing. So that's what she did. Elvie took Fluff to the TV studios. "I've got a fish that can sing," she told them. "Yes, yes, dear, of course you have," they said, not believing her. "I have," she said. As she was so young, the judges said that they would let her go onto the stage and show the people her fish, but that was all, just showing, no singing. "Yes, yes, dears," said Elvie to them, of course. She waited and waited while the other acts went on. Jeff the juggler, who could take his eyes out and juggle them. Wally the worm wiggler, who made it look as if he could feed worms in through one ear and pull them out the other. The man who climbed into his TV and sang the national anthem looking out from inside his TV set. Then it was Elvie's turn. She walked onto the stage with Fluff. She bowed, and then she turned to the fish tank and shouted, "Fluff, sing!" Everyone laughed. How ridiculous, how silly, how could a fish sing? But then, even as they laughed, they could see the bubbles rising up out of Fluff's bum. Amazing, incredible, Fluff was farting "The Sun Has Got His Hat On." The audience held their breath in amazement. And then, at the end, they stood up and burst into applause, whooping and whistling for Elvie and her farting fish. They loved them both. Well, you know what's coming, don't you? Fluff went on to win the talent show. Fluff became the most famous fish in the world. Everyone wanted to see and hear Fluff the farting fish. Soon, Fluff was being asked to appear at music festivals, playing with top stars. She was asked to sing in operas. She was asked to sing at huge concerts with whole orchestras. Then one day, something so awful, so bad and so sad happened. Elvie and Fluff were doing a show with, yes, a puppy. And you remember that Elvie wanted a Fluffy. Elvie wanted a puppy. Now you're not going to believe this, but the puppy was called, yes, Fluff. This is what happened. Elvie came to the front of the stage, and just as she always did, to get Fluff ready, she shouted, "Fluff!" Fluff the fish perked up, got herself ready to blow some bubbles. Then Fluff the dog leaped up too. He'd escaped from his owner's hands and come bounding up to Elvie and Fluff the fish. Before Elvie could notice Fluff the dog, she called out to Fluff the fish, "Sing, Take Me, I'm Yours." Fluff started to blow the bubbles to the tune of "Take Me, I'm Yours," and do you know what happened next? Fluff the dog heard "Take Me, I'm Yours," so he did. He jumped into the tank, opened his mouth, and in went Fluff the fish. The world's most famous, the world's richest, the world's most successful fish was in a dog's mouth. What? Really? No. Oh yes. What could be done? Any second now, Fluff was going to be swallowed and the whole amazing story of Fluff the farting fish would end. There would be no more singing, no more bubbles, no more Fluff. Evie was horrified. She stood rooted to the spot like a frozen tree. Then a thought flew into her mind. If she just did some kind of puppy training thing, just as she'd done all that time ago when she first got Fluff, her amazing farting fish would be saved. She held her hand above Fluff the dog's head. She shouted, "Fluff, jump!" Fluff the dog jumped, and as Fluff the dog jumped, Fluff the dog opened his mouth. And as Fluff the dog opened his mouth, Fluff the fish jumped out and went flying through the air in a beautiful rainbow shape, landing back in the tank with a big splosh. "Fluff, sit!" shouted Evie, and Fluff the dog sat down, while Fluff the fish tried yet again to sit down, but as we know, that was one trick she couldn't do. Never mind that though, Fluff the fish had been saved. Amazing, incredible, wonderful, hooray! But when, and it is not going to make you happy to hear this, when, and it is not going to make you jump for joy to hear this, when Elvie turned to Fluff and shouted, "Fluff, sing Thriller," there was nothing. Not a thing, not a sound, not a bubble. Not even the smallest, tiniest, weakest leak of air that could make even the smallest, tiniest, weeniest sound. There was nothing. Nothing at all. From that day then till this day now, Fluff has never sung another song, has never blown another bubble, has never farted another fart. Fluff is silent, still, and quite quiet. But of course, Elvie still loves Fluff. They are happy, the girl and Fluff her fish. And I've heard, this may not be absolutely true, it may be a fib, but I did hear it, so I might as well tell you. I heard that Elvie was learning to do what Fluff did. You know, sing out of her bottom. Do you think she will? Do you think she would be able to learn how to do it? I wonder. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's story. I've got my next book ready and I look forward to bringing it to you soon. Bye for now.